Hey guys, today we are going to be making these angel food cupcakes. The thing about angel food cupcakes is that unless you actually know what you're doing, similar to macarons, you can get catastrophic results. They're not hard to make, but you need the right recipe, and luckily I have it for you guys today. Angel food cupcakes are particularly delicious because they're very light, airy, and they all depend on how you whip and aerate the ingredients. So let me show you how to do it. One of my favorite things about this recipe is this bright red 5-minute raspberry sauce that we're going to make. It's really easy. Raspberries, sugar, lemon juice, which helps break the sweetness, into a heat-proof bowl. This goes in the microwave for 4 to 5 minutes. Gets bubbly, really hot, so you need to be careful. And then you mix it, sieve it to get rid of those seeds, and it's done. Let it cool down, set it aside. Let's move on to aerating our dry ingredients for the cupcakes. Again, this recipe relies on the process as much as it does on the ingredients. Aerating your ingredients 5 times is really important because other than whipping the egg whites properly, which we're going to show in a second, this recipe really needs to be aerated really well. Part of doing that is aerating it with the dry ingredients. Sifting them helps you give that aeration, so sift it for 5 times. The alternative with many of these recipes is to use a food processor. I've tried it. It's clunky and messy, and it just takes a lot more effort, so just aerate it. Let's move on to whipping our egg whites. Now, before we get into this, we're going to be using something called caster sugar. In Australia and the UK, caster sugar is really readily available everywhere. When I went to the US a couple of years ago, I couldn't find it anywhere, but the good news is you can make it yourself at home. You're going to need a food processor to do it. You're going to be popping some granulated sugar, which is regular white sugar, into the bowl of a food processor and just basically process it until it gets finer. Not quite powdery, because that's powdered sugar. We want super fine sugar or caster sugar. If you're in the UK or Australia, you already have access to this, so use caster sugar and egg whites. Whip the egg whites with a little bit of warm water and some cream of tartar. Those 2 ingredients will help your egg whites whip up better. Get it to soft peaks, and then we're going to add that caster or superfine sugar slowly, about 5 or 6 different goes, while the mixer is on high speed. Adding it slowly allows it to dissolve a little bit better, but it's fine enough that it still creates air in the meringue. That's why superfine sugar is so good for meringues. Continue whipping for about 4 or 5 minutes until you reach stiff peaks. We're not looking for over whipped, like really stiff peaks. We're looking for something that still has a bit of a bird's beak. See how that kind of looks like a bird's beak? That's what we're looking for. We're bringing out the sifter again, and we're sifting our dry ingredients in about 3 different portions into our dry ingredients. We're switching over to a spatula and we're gently folding that through. Once you've done that, a little bit more, so another 1/3 of dry ingredients sifted in there. We're aerating those ingredients again and folding them through. It's really important that you don't beat the air out of your whipped egg whites, because again, this recipe relies so heavily on making sure that there's air in it. There's no raising agents in this recipe, no bicarb, no baking powder. It's the egg whites that are doing all of the raising. I'm using an ice cream scoop to scoop my finished batter, which by the way looks so fluffy. You could just eat it like this, but don't, because you need to bake it. Into my cupcake liners, which I've just lined a 12 cupcake tin with 12 cupcake liners. You want to flatten this gently. You don't want to like beat the air out of it as you're flattening it, but you want to flatten this batter because as it bakes, it really retains its shape. So if you leave like any peaks on top of your batter before you bake it, it's going to kind of bake with those peaks. And sometimes those peaks can burn or cook a little bit more quickly than the rest of the cupcake. So nice and flat, pop it in the oven for about 16 to 18 minutes. You want to end up with a nice light golden color once it's finished baking. Let these cool in the tin for about 10 minutes before you pop them onto a cooling rack to cool down. Now, I just want to quickly show you what happens when you don't follow the instructions for this recipe and aerate your dry ingredients and whip your egg whites properly. The cupcake shrinks as it's cooling. You don't want that because you end up with these tiny kind of dense cupcakes, and you want nice fluffy light cupcakes, and they sink in the middle. It's not a terrible inedible cupcake, but it's not an angel food cupcake. So follow the instructions, please. For the whipped cream, we're literally going to be whipping some cream, sugar, vanilla extract, and mascarpone in a bowl to stiff peaks. Now, when it comes to the decorating, there's two ways you can do this. We did make raspberry sauce at the beginning of this recipe, and I'm going to show you one way to decorate with the raspberry sauce. So we're going to be using our ice cream scoop that we use for the batter to scoop some of that mascarpone whipped cream on top of each cupcake. Then we're going to drizzle these with that bright red fresh raspberry sauce. Give it a bit of a swirl before popping some blueberries on top. I looked at this after I decorated it and I was a little bit unsure about it. It tastes absolutely incredible with that raspberry sauce, but I think it looks a little bit too close to blood, and it makes these cupcakes look a little bit Halloween-y, and that's not what I'm going for. So I opted for decorating it a second way, which is a little bit more of a traditional way to decorate these cupcakes, which is by using an open star tip and a piping bag to pipe swirls of that mascarpone whipped cream. We're opting out of the raspberry sauce and just topping this with some fresh raspberries and blueberries. You can choose which way you want. Personally, I think the way that I first decorated it with the raspberry sauce tastes better, but I think that the second way looks way better. So I'm a little bit in two minds. You could core the cupcakes and drizzle the raspberry sauce in the center if you like. It's really up to you. It's a great recipe. Give it a go. Let me know what you think. I've tested this recipe out in so many different ways, and this is what I found worked best and gave me the best results. And I wanted to share this recipe with you guys and let you know you don't need a food processor to aerate your ingredients. You can do it with a sieve. The recipe is on my website at scranline.com. By the way, if you enjoyed this video, giving it a like really helps me out. It helps spread the video to more people. So give the video a like if you enjoyed it. I have loads of other recipes on my website that you can check out as well in the link down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next episode of the Scran Line. Bye!